I called my husband's cooking desperate housewife food to impress my new friends. Now he's gone. Okay, I need a reality check and I need it now. Please just be brutal. I'm sitting here alone in my living room, and it still smells like stale wine and the ghost of yesterday's party. There are little bits of confetti stuck to the floor, and half-eaten plates on the coffee table that I can't bring myself to clear. Because every time I look at them, I feel like I'm going to throw up. My husband, Kai, left this morning. I woke up and he was just gone. A bag packed, his toothbrush missing from the holder, his side of the closet eerily empty. He's blocked me on everything. His phone goes straight to voicemail, my texts are green, and my DMs are unsent. All of this, apparently, over a joke. A stupid, horrible, unfunny joke I made last night to get a laugh from a room full of people I barely know. My stomach hasn't stopped churning since I found the note he left on the kitchen counter. I keep reading it, hoping the words will change. Please, just tell me. Am I the asshole who just blew up her own marriage, or is this the world's most insane overreaction? I honestly can't tell anymore. Kai and I, we weren't always like this. For the first 5 years of our marriage, we were that couple. The ones who finish each other's sentences, who still hold hands in the grocery store. He's a quiet, gentle soul. A librarian, for God's sake. His love language isn't grand gestures or expensive gifts, it's acts of service. Specifically, it's food. When I had a bad day at work, he'd have a perfect, fluffy omelet waiting for me when I got home. The night I got laid off from my old job, I came home a wreck, convinced my career was over. And he'd made this rich, slow-cooked bolognese. He said it was a meal for building new foundations. That's him. He turns flour and water into hope. Then, about 6 months ago, I got a promotion. I moved into a new department with a new team. These people were different. They were sharp, ambitious, and effortlessly cool. They wore designer clothes, talked about their weekend trips to wine country, and had this biting, sarcastic wit that I found intoxicating. Jessica, their unofficial queen bee, could eviscerate someone with a smile. She once described another department head's outfit as aggressively beige, and the whole table erupted. It was clever, it was quick, and it was always at someone else's expense. I wanted in. I wanted them to see me as one of them, not just some boring married woman from the suburbs. So I started to change. I upgraded my wardrobe. I started suggesting we try the trendy, overpriced restaurants they talked about, and I began to adopt their brand of humor. I told myself this was networking, what career growth looked like. But if I'm being honest, it was more than that. Being around them made me feel important, shiny. And next to their shine, my quiet life with Kai, with his worn-out cookbooks and flour-dusted aprons, started to feel small. Insufficient. Kai noticed. He tried to be supportive, but I could see the confusion in his eyes. He hated those restaurants. After a night out with my new work friends, I'd come home buzzing. Wasn't that hilarious when Jessica did that impression of our boss? I'd ask. Kai would just stir his coffee. I guess, he'd say, not looking at me. It just felt a bit personal. He's a nice guy. Oh, Kai, lighten up, it's just a joke. You take everything so seriously, I'd snap, instantly defensive. Looking back, he wasn't being critical. He was trying to protect us. He saw the poison long before I was willing to admit I was drinking it. He saw that I was so desperate to be accepted by them that I was slowly erasing the person he fell in love with. The whole thing was my idea, of course. A house party. It'll be fun, I chirped to Kai, my voice full of a brittle enthusiasm that I now recognize as desperation. It's the perfect way for my work friends to get to know the real us. He was hesitant. He'd met Jessica and a few of the others briefly, and I knew he found them exhausting. But he saw how much it meant to me, so he relented. And because he is, or was, Kai, he immediately took on the most difficult part, the food. If we're going to have them in our home, he said, I want to cook for them something proper, something from the heart. He decided on buff bourguignon. It wasn't just some random recipe he found online. It was his grandmother's. He pulled out her cookbook, a tattered, grease-stained relic with a faded floral cover, its pages soft as cloth from decades of use. He treated that book like a holy text. For 2 days, our apartment was filled with the rich smells of searing beef, simmering wine, and caramelizing onions. He was in his element, humming to himself, a light dusting of flour on his nose. He even went to 3 different butchers to find the perfect cut of meat. This wasn't just dinner. It was a performance of love. He was sharing the most sacred part of his family history with these strangers, for me. The party started, and it was as loud and slick as I'd hoped. My friends filled our cozy apartment with their booming laughs and stories about corporate takeovers. Kai was a gracious host, quietly refilling glasses and making sure everyone was comfortable. But he was like a black-and-white film character in a Technicolor movie. He didn't belong. Then came dinner. He brought the stew out in his grandmother's heavy ceramic pot, his face glowing with pride. He served everyone, explaining a little about the recipe's history. My friends ate, making polite but noncommittal noises. Then Jessica, swirling her wine, delivered the first jab. "This is very authentic, Harper. So rustic." She said rustic, the way you'd say charming about a house with no indoor plumbing. And that was it. That was my cue. My moment to prove I wasn't the boring wife of a librarian who cooked rustic food. I saw my chance to be one of them, to be sharp and witty. I threw my head back and let out a loud, theatrical laugh. "Rustic! Jessica, you're too kind," I said, my voice dripping with the fake sarcasm I'd been practicing. "Honey, this is straight-up, desperate housewife cuisine. It tastes like my high school cafeteria's Wednesday special, just with more wine in it." The table exploded with laughter. I felt a surge of something ugly and exhilarating. I was the center of attention. I picked up my spoon and pretended to inspect the stew with a grimace. "I think I just found a fossilized carrot in here." More laughter. I was killing it. Then I made the mistake of looking at Kai. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even sad. It was worse. His face was completely blank. All the light, all the warmth and pride that had been there moments before had just vanished. It was like watching a candle be snuffed out in an instant. He looked at me, and it was like he was looking at a complete stranger. A stranger who had just taken something precious and beautiful and smashed it on the floor for a cheap laugh. He didn't say a word. He just quietly stood up, began clearing the plates of the dish he'd spent 2 days perfecting, and carried them into the kitchen. The party kept going, but for me, it had just ended. After the last guest finally trickled out, leaving a trail of empty glasses and their lingering, expensive perfume, the silence in the apartment was deafening. I was still buzzing from the social performance, a nervous, hollow energy thrumming under my skin. I found Kai in the kitchen, methodically scraping the leftover buff bourguignon from the pot into the trash can. Every scrape of the spoon against the ceramic sounded like an accusation. "Hey," I said, trying to sound breezy and casual. "That was a great party, right? I think they really liked you." He didn't look up. "Did they?" he asked, his voice flat and devoid of any emotion. "Come on, don't be like that," I wheedled, leaning against the counter. "It was just a joke. You know how they are. It's just their sense of humor. I was just playing along, riffing." He finally stopped and looked at me. His eyes were so empty it scared me. "Riffing," he repeated, as if the word was in a foreign language. "You were riffing on my grandmother's recipe, the one she taught me before she died. The one I made for you on our 3rd date." A cold knot formed in my stomach. I'd completely forgotten that. "Kai, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. It was stupid. I'd had a little too much wine." "It's not about my feelings, Harper," he said, his voice dangerously calm. He turned back to the sink and started washing the pot with a furious, controlled energy. "It's about respect. You stood there in our home, and you took something that was a part of me, a part of my family, and you served it up to them as a punchline. You chose their laughter over me. I had no answer for that because he was right. I just stood there, uselessly, as he finished cleaning, his movements precise and final. When he was done, he dried his hands, walked past me without a glance, and went into the bedroom. "I'm tired," he said, closing the door softly behind him. "I'm going to sleep. No yelling, no fighting, just a quiet, chilling finality." I felt a prickle of real fear then, but I pushed it down. I told myself he was just being dramatic. He'd get over it. We'd talk in the morning and it would be fine. I slept on the couch, telling myself it was to give him space, but really, I was too cowardly to face him. When I woke up, the morning light felt harsh and unforgiving. The apartment was too quiet. I called his name. No answer. That's when I walked into the bedroom and saw it. The closet door was open, and a perfect, neat rectangle of empty space had been carved out of his side. His shoes were gone. His toiletries were gone from the bathroom shelf. And on the kitchen counter, next to the coffee maker, was a single, folded piece of paper. My hands were shaking as I opened it. It wasn't a letter. It was just one sentence, written in his neat, librarian's handwriting. "I've taken out the trash, the food, and myself." Panic, a real gut-twisting panic, finally set in. This wasn't him being dramatic. This was an amputation. I grabbed my phone, my fingers fumbling as I tried to call him, straight to voicemail. I sent a frantic barrage of texts. "Kai, please call me. I'm so sorry, it was a stupid mistake. We can fix this, please just talk to me." They all stayed a stark, unforgiving green, delivered but not seen. I checked WhatsApp, blocked, Instagram, blocked, Facebook, blocked. He had systematically, efficiently, and silently excised me from his digital life. It was a bloodless, brutal severing. My mind was racing, trying to find a loophole, a way back in. I thought of our friends, our real friends. Amelia. We'd known her for years. She was my maid of honor and Kai's oldest friend from college. She would help. She would talk to him, make him see reason. I called her, my voice already cracking with a sob before she even finished saying hello. I launched into the story, painting myself as the victim of a terrible misunderstanding. I told her about the joke, framing it as a silly, wine-fueled gaffe. I told her about his note, his disappearance, his blocking me. I emphasized how extreme his reaction was. "He's just being so sensitive, Amelia. It was a joke. He's blown this completely out of proportion, hasn't he?" There was a long, heavy silence on the other end of the line. I could hear her breathing, a slow, deliberate sound. I expected sympathy, an assurance that Kai was just cooling off. I was not prepared for the ice in her voice when she finally spoke. "Are you serious, Harper? Are you actually listening to yourself right now?" Her tone was so cold it stunned me into silence. "You're crying because he left," she continued, her voice sharp with a disbelief that felt like a slap. "Not because of what you did. Kai called me last night after he left the party. He was so broken. Do you have any idea what that recipe, what that cookbook means to him? It was his grandmother's, I know, but—" "No, you don't know," she cut me off. "His grandmother raised him after his mom left. She was everything to him. He spent every afternoon of his childhood in her kitchen, standing on a stool, learning how to cook. That book is all he has left of her. He told me once that making her food was like having a conversation with her. And you took that, Harper. You took that beautiful, sacred thing, and you held it up in front of a bunch of shallow, cruel people and called it garbage. You didn't just insult his cooking. You insulted his entire history. You insulted the memory of the most important person in his life. And you did it for what? For a cheap laugh from people who wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire." Every word was a punch to the gut. She was right. I wasn't the victim, I was the villain. "So no, Harper," Amelia finished, her voice flat with finality. "I don't think he's overreacting. I think he finally woke up and realized the woman he married would rather be a clown for a pack of hyenas than be his wife. Don't call me again about this. You need to figure this out on your own." She hung up. I just sat there, the dial tone buzzing in my ear, the full, crushing weight of what I had done finally crashing down on me. Amelia's words echoed in my head, stripping away the last of my self-serving delusions. A pack of hyenas. A clown. The imagery was so stark, so humiliatingly accurate. For the first time, I replayed the party not from my perspective, but from Kai's. I saw myself through his eyes. I remembered the look on Jessica's face when I made the joke, that smirk of cruel amusement. I remembered the chorus of laughter, and it no longer sounded like validation. It sounded like the braying of a mob. They weren't laughing with me. They were laughing at the spectacle of a wife publicly tearing down her gentle, earnest husband. I had handed them Kai on a platter, a sacrifice to prove my worthiness to their pathetic little club. In a desperate, pathetic attempt to find some sort of validation, to prove Amelia wrong, I sent a message to Jessica. I kept it light, feigning a sort of "can you believe this" tone. "Hey, crazy night last night, huh? So, awkward question, but Kai is being super weird about that whole desperate housewife joke. He actually left. So dramatic, right? Lol." The reply came back almost instantly. A single, dismissive text bubble. OMG, that's wild. He seemed really sensitive. Anyway, that's between you guys. We shouldn't get involved. And that was it. No, are you okay? No, I'm so sorry to hear that. Just a curt, clinical distancing. That's between you guys. The same people whose approval I had craved so desperately were now treating my imploding marriage like a piece of office gossip they wanted no part of. I realized with a sickening certainty that if I were to announce my divorce at work on Monday, their only reaction would be to whisper about it by the coffee machine for 5 minutes before moving on. I wasn't their friend. I was temporary entertainment, a clown whose act had finished. I had traded something real and irreplaceable for something so fake it evaporated the moment the spotlight turned off. It's been 3 weeks. The confetti is gone, the apartment is clean, but the emptiness is a physical presence. It's in the hollow space in the bed next to me. It's in the silence where his humming from the kitchen should be. I quit my job. I couldn't face them. I sent a one-line email to HR and never went back. The thought of walking into that office, of seeing their faces, made my skin crawl. My life has shrunk to the 4 walls of this apartment and the glowing screen of my phone. It's my window to a world I'm no longer a part of. I've become a digital ghost, a pathetic social media stalker. I don't look at Kai's profile. He still has me blocked. But I look at Amelia's. I look at our other friends. I search for him for any sign of life like an addict looking for a fix. Most days there's nothing. But last night my heart stopped. Amelia posted a new photo. It was a group shot, a bunch of our old friends gathered around a dinner table, their faces warm and happy. And there he was. He was in the background, in the kitchen, a familiar dish towel slung over his shoulder. He was stirring a pot on the stove, and he was turned slightly, talking to someone just out of frame. And he was smiling. It wasn't a huge, beaming grin. It was a small, gentle, contented smile. The kind of smile I hadn't seen on his face in months. The kind of smile he used to have when he was cooking for me. The caption Amelia wrote underneath the photo shattered what was left of my heart into a million pieces. It just said, "The good stuff tastes like home." And I just stared at it, at the picture of my husband finding his home again, with everyone but me. The tears started to fall, hot and useless, onto my phone screen, blurring the image of the life I had so casually, so stupidly, thrown away. I was the one who wanted a bigger, shinier world. And now he's the one who has it, while I'm left in the dark, on the outside, looking in. A clown in an empty circus.